ピカチュウ、いつか俺がポケモンマスターになった時、そこにいてくれよな。
ピカチ
ュウよし行こう。
Hey everyone, it's Mark. This is my recap for Aim to be a Pokemon Master, Episode 11, The Rainbow and the Pokemon Master. This was the 1232nd episode of the Pokemon anime, the final episode of Pokemon Journeys, and the final episode of Ash and Pikachu's story. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened in this episode, and then we'll discuss. So the episode starts with Ash, Misty, and Brock on their way home. Misty breaks off from the group first, heading back to Cerulean City. This was the first emotional goodbye of the episode, but they didn't linger on the scene too long. We have seen plenty of tear-jerking goodbyes with these characters before, so Misty and Brock leaving the group was just a formality at the beginning of this episode. The meat of the story happens once Ash returns to the rolling hills of Pallet Town. He and Pikachu are finally home. Well, okay, now they're finally home, and they rush inside, worn out from their travels. They mess around in the bath like two little kids, and then it's time for dinner. Ash tries to tell some stories about his most recent journey, but his mother just tells him to eat up first. Later, it's time for bed, but Ash is clearly thinking about something. And clearly, Sleepy Pikachu is sleepy. I loved that cute yawn. Anyways, Ash is wondering how Latias and Latios are doing. We didn't get any actual follow-up about them in this episode. Ash just mentioned them a couple of times. The next morning, we had a classic throwback of a Dodrio waking everybody up. I'm sure I will miss a few of them, but there were a lot of callbacks to the beginning of the anime in this episode. Ash's mother wakes him up and she tries to give him a new pair of shoes, but he declines. Seems like a small detail, but it is important for this episode. Ash runs off to Professor Oak's lab, where he meets Tracy. Notably, Tracy actually has a speaking role in this episode, the first time he's actually spoken in an episode since all the way back in the AG finale. He's leaving to go run errands, so Ash heads inside. He came to see the new Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle that Professor Oak is about to give away to new trainers, but the Charmander is missing. Ash goes outside to look, and this is really the only time we see his other Pokemon at the lab in this episode, but they don't know where the Charmander went. Pikachu eventually finds it stuck at the bottom of some hole, and once Ash helps it get back to safety, he's met with a surprise. It's Gary. His old rival was apparently the one who delivered the new starter Pokemon. They get them back to Professor Oak, who needs to do a checkup on them. It's already time for Gary to head out, and I think this meeting took place at the same exact bridge where we saw these two first interact in episode 1 of the anime way back when. Gary congratulates Ash on winning the World Coronation Series, but then asks him a pretty important question. Now that he's like the world champion, how close is he to becoming a Pokemon Master? Ash doesn't know what to say, and Gary recognizes this pretty quickly, leaving Ash alone in his thoughts, and yeah, Ash is kinda shook. We cut to a scene of our heroes walking home, and Ash is still thinking about what Gary said. Pikachu can tell Ash is lost in his thoughts, so Ash shakes it off for the time being, but you can tell he hasn't fully processed it just yet. Next, we see a montage of Ash and Pikachu's routine over the next few days. We usually don't see Ash hang out around Pallet Town for this long, and they even slipped in a scene of Tracy's other Pokemon, including his fully evolved Venomoth, which was a cool surprise. Let's check in at Team Rocket HQ, specifically in the dining area, where the Team Rocket trio are begrudgingly back to work. Clearly none of them want to be there, and Wobbuffet is worried about his friends. More on these guys later. The next day, Ash is off to the Viridian Forest for his next adventure. He still hasn't swapped out his shoes yet, even though these ones look pretty cool with the old Pokemon League Expo logo that Ash's original hat had. Our heroes take a nice, peaceful walk through the forest, but they're not alone. Meowth is there to cut them off, but he runs into Jessie and James. Oh, of course. These three all came up with the exact same plan, and in the most overdramatic Team Rocket way possible, they put aside their differences and reunite, which was nice to see, even if it was incredibly unsurprising to me. They immediately capture Pikachu, and one last time they perform the motto. I don't really have the time in this video to go in depth about this, but honestly, I'm probably more sad about this being Team Rocket's last episode than I am about this being Ash's last episode. So watching them put their all into one last motto performance was the most emotional I got watching this entire episode. I love these idiots so much, and I'll miss them a lot. Back to the matter at hand, Ash is kind of SOL. He didn't bring any of his Pokemon with him. Just when Team Rocket looked like they're about to win, a huge gust of wind comes in along with a piercing cry. Is that Ash's Pidgeot? It is! Pidgeot frees Pikachu out of the net, and for the last time ever, Ash calls for Pikachu to use Thunderbolt, and he lets Team Rocket have it. And for the last time ever, Team Rocket go blasting off again, and everyone is just happy to see them back together, especially with their old Pokemon. Speaking of old Pokemon, let's return our attention to Ash's Pidgeot showing up for the first time in 1,151 episodes. Pidgeot's flock arrives, and it's clear that they've all grown up a lot since Ash left Pidgeot in charge of them. Then Ash asks Pidgeot if it wants to rejoin his team, and after getting the approval of its flock, Pidgeot accepts. So now after all those years, we can finally stop joking about how Ash never came back for Pidgeot, because he finally did. Cut to the next day, and now Ash is just kind of wandering around the outskirts of Palatown aimlessly. He sees a group of Poliwag and a Poliwhirl, and then he and Pikachu decide to lie down and rest. Ash starts thinking about what Gary said the other day, and we see our heroes drifting off to sleep as some rain clouds pull in. It eventually starts pouring rain, so they take shelter underneath a tree all by themselves. This is a pretty important scene as Ash starts to talk to Pikachu about what it means to be a Pokemon Master. He says it's not becoming champion, as he still considers himself a challenger. More and more Pokemon start to gather around them while Ash goes on this monologue, and he explains that he wants to keep going on adventures, and that everything that happens every single day is important. He wants to make friends with all the Pokemon in the world, because that's gotta be what it means to be a Pokemon Master. The rain finally stops, so now Ash and Pikachu find themselves underneath a rainbow. Ash reaffirms his goal to become a Pokemon Master and asks Pikachu to stay with him as he works towards that goal. They run back home, ready to chase after their dream. The next morning, Ash's mother goes to wake him up, but is surprised to find Ash not in his room. However, he changed into his new shoes, so Ash's mother knows that means he's left on another journey. Cut to our heroes walking through a grove of cherry blossoms. We're starting to come to the end here, but Ash isn't alone. They reach a fork in the road, and Pikachu hands Ash a stick to help decide which way to go. Ash tosses it in the air, the original version of Type Wild starts to play, and just like that, Ash and Pikachu are gone, off on a new adventure. And next time, a new beginning. This transitions straight into the ending, which is the original version of Type Wild, with the Pokedex playing scenes from each episode of Aim to be a Pokemon Master. And just like that, Ash and Pikachu's story is over. Let's talk about it. Okay, this is kind of difficult to talk about, I'm not gonna lie. I know everyone is experiencing all kinds of emotions seeing Ash and Pikachu's journey come to an end, or rather, their time in the Pokemon anime coming to an end. Because really, the show has been telling us all along that Ash and Pikachu's journey will always continue. That's been the message of this entire Aim to be a Pokemon Master miniseries. And even though a lot of people didn't really like the direction that this 11-episode miniseries went, I think narratively it makes perfect sense. Ash's monologue underneath the tree spelled things out in the clearest way we have ever seen in the anime. Ash's goal of becoming a Pokemon Master isn't becoming the strongest trainer. That's just part of it, and Ash has already achieved that goal. So, what's next? Well, according to Ash, he wants to befriend all the Pokemon in the world, so that's his next goal. I had this figured out way back in episode 4 of Aim to be a Pokemon Master, and what we saw in this episode just reaffirms what I said back then. Now that Ash is the world champion, he's gonna live out his days helping Pokemon, meeting all kinds of new Pokemon and connecting with them in his own special way. At times, that may require some serious battling, and I have no doubt that there are many more epic battles in Ash's future. But at other times, he might just try to help out a random Pokemon in need. That's just as important to him. It might not be the most exciting television, and I can see why people didn't love the plot of Aim to be a Pokemon Master, but I think it perfectly illustrated what the next stage of Ash's journey is going to be, as he, wait for it, aims to be a Pokemon Master. Really, where I think the anime mishandled Ash and Pikachu's final chapter was at the very beginning. In the initial announcement trailer, they showed us all the most exciting moments from episodes 1, 2, 3, and 11. They got our hopes up that this miniseries was going to be non-stop action, returns, and plot development. It was not. They made it quite clear in the actual episodes that this was just Ash's never-ending aimless journey, and nothing more. If you were paying attention, you would have recognized that the first scene in episode 1 almost mirrored the final scene in episode 11. These 11 episodes were never meant to be this big epic send-off to Ash and Pikachu. They were meant to be the final chapter, maybe even the epilogue of what the rest of their adventures are going to look like. The entire narrative of Aim to be a Pokemon Master was showing Ash and Pikachu moving on to the next stage of their lives, and I think it accomplished that. I feel satisfied with what we got in this miniseries, but I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. If you feel disappointed or sad about how Ash and Pikachu left the anime, I can't blame you. These two have been the main protagonists of the anime for 26 years. They've been our heroes for so long. There's going to be a lot of different emotions from all the fans watching them say goodbye. And complicated emotions at that, which we'll all process in different ways. So whatever your feelings are about Ash and Pikachu leaving, they're totally valid. valid. And I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments, or come on over to my Discord server if you want to chat with others about Ash, Pikachu, and whatever happens next. I still haven't given this last episode a rating, so I should probably get to that. As I have already mentioned, I really liked how Ash and Pikachu's story came to an end. Was it perfect? Like, did it blow me away? No, but I am pretty satisfied with what I got. This episode had a lot to it. Some nostalgic moments, some funny moments, and the final bit of character development we're ever gonna see from Ash Ketchum. I loved it, so I'm giving this episode a 9 out of 10 rating. Beyond just the cool moments that everyone is talking about, there are even more hidden meanings and additional details behind so many things that happen in this episode. Like, I'm sure there's some kind of special meaning behind the cherry blossoms and Ash's new shoes, or all kinds of things that I don't even know about yet. One of the hidden meanings that I do know about was how Ash and Pikachu watching the Poliwag was a nod to Ash's namesake, Satoshi Tajiri, whose favorite Pokemon is Poliwag. There were layers to this episode, people. There are still a lot of questions left though. First of all, was this really the last time we'll see Ash and Pikachu? Well, it's definitely the last time these two will be the main protagonist, I'm sure of that. But I'm not so sure this is the last time they will ever be in the Pokemon anime. This show is notorious for bringing back returning characters, and I think the temptation to bring back Ash and Pikachu at some point will be too much for them to pass on. It could be years from now that Ash returns, but if I had to guess, I think it will happen. We don't know if the new Pokemon anime, which just got announced as being called Pokemon Horizons in English today, by the way, we don't know if the show even takes place in the same universe as the previous 1,200 plus episodes of the anime, but if it does, that means Ash is out there somewhere, and that makes it possible for him to come back, even if it's just to say hello. Another couple of questions that we need to answer are: 1, now that Pokemon Journeys is finally over, what's our final verdict on this series? And 2, considering that my channel has been built on Pokemon Journeys reviews, what's next for me? Well, I've got you covered on both of those fronts. I'm going to try really hard to get out a lot of videos finishing my coverage of Pokemon Journeys and moving on to Pokemon Horizons, and you can bet that I'll be there reviewing every episode of Horizons once the series starts in 3 weeks. And with that, I think that's all I've got for my last episode review of Pokemon Journeys. It's been quite the wild ride getting to this point, and I cannot thank you enough for watching. Whether this was your first video of mine that you've ever watched, or if you've seen all of my reviews, your support means so much to me. If you could do me a favor, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and leave your thoughts in the comments. I'm going to be pretty active in reading and replying to the comments on this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and for the last time in Pokemon Journeys, I'll see you guys next time.